Once when the world was yet trapped in darkness, the goddess of mana felled 8 incarnations of disaster that guided the world to destruction, the god beasts, with the sword of mana, and sealed them in 8 stones. And as the darkness left, the world was created. The goddess of mana turned herself into a tree and fell asleep. Many years passed. Due to the actions of some who plot to unleash the god beasts from the stones, obtain power surpassing even that of the gods, and to make the world their own, conflict breaks out, heralding the end of peace. Mana is rapidly disappearing from the earth, and even the mana tree has begun to wither. This is Seiken Densetsu 3, or Secret of Mana 2, as it is kind of sort of known, a action RPG from Squaresoft released in 1995, and it's part of the Mana Seiken Densetsu series, which includes games like Secret of Mana, The Adventures of Mana, or Final Fantasy Adventure, Legend of Mana, Sword of Mana, Children of Mana, Friends of Mana, Mana Mobile, Dawn of Mana, Heroes of Mana. There's a bunch of them, and not all of them are great. This is the original game that was supposed to be Secret of Mana 2, but eventually was canceled for whatever reason. However, I will tell you that in 2020, this game is coming, a translated version, to the Switch, the PS4, and the PC, so that's nice. About time, I guess. It's a sequel to Secret of Mana, as we talked about, and the third installment in the series. It follows 3 heroes as they attempt to claim the Mana Sword and prevent the God Beast from being unleashed and destroying the world. It features 3 lengthy main plot lines and 6 different possible main characters, each with their own storyline, and 2 players to play simultaneously. It builds on the gameplay of the predecessor with multiple enhancements, including the use of a time progression system, which has day-to-night transitions and weekday to weekday in-game time, a wide range of character classes to choose from, and yeah, almost like a class system kind of based on that as well. Graphically, it looks great. I mean, there's so much that we could talk about in this game. I'm not even going to try and scratch the surface. Pardon me. Graphically, it looks amazing. One of the best looking Super Nintendo games, I think, around. Gameplay plays a lot like Secret of Mana. I almost feel like it plays a little slower, though. The combat system, while just still your basic action RPG, you still have to kind of charge up between an attack, so you can't just be spamming attacks like you could in Secret of Mana, which really didn't do much good for you anyway. Our charge attack bar is different. The menus are a little different, and the character classes and the way they learn magic work a little differently. We did have basic class types in the original Secret of Mana, but it was much more, you are a knight, you are a monk, you are a wizard kind of thing. Here we have those same classes, but really kind of more cordoned off. In Secret of Mana, we could have our sprite be doing some fairly decent physical damage if you gave him a good weapon. In here, who would end up taking that role, you know, they're not going to do great physical damage and have great physical attack, so there is that. Due to its exclusivity, that's a word, to Japan, most of the English language reviews were published years after the initial release. One contemporary from 1995 in GameFan, which covered import game, rated it very highly. The Japanese Famitsu also rated it highly, citing slightly lower scores than Secret of Mana, though. The Brazilian Super Game Power magazine gave it a positive contemporary review, noting it as having some of the best graphics of any game on the Super Nintendo. Critics have rated the game highly in retrospective reviews, published mostly after the release of the fan translation patch in 2000, which you are seeing here. The graphics were praised in a review from OneUp.com. They called the game absolutely gorgeous, which they attributed to its position towards the end of the era of 2D SNES games, but before developers started working with pre-rendered 3D graphics. Chris Parsons at RP Gamer agreed, terming the graphics awesome and positively comparing some of the effects to PlayStation RPGs, which the Cubed 3 review by Adam Riley did as well. The gameplay was rated highly, though the combat system had some detractors. Dillard of Nintendo Life felt the gameplay was as good of that as Secret of Mana and had a much more strategic feel to it. One Up reviewer felt the combat was not as tight as Secret of Mana, but still very good. The plot had mixed reviews, with several reviewers praising the system of choosing different main characters, especially its effect on replayability. Riley felt that it meant the story can be quite confusing. Parsons noted that the interactions with the characters that were not chosen often left plot holes as their motives were not explained. Yeah, so you've got, like, what, 6 characters to pick from, and you will run into the 3 you haven't picked throughout the world, and they're just kind of like, I'm looking for a bad guy, and, you know, there's not much to flush them out, which is alright. Overall, the game is regarded by many as a Super Nintendo classic. Nintendo Life's Dillard stated it was easily one of the best RPGs to come out of the 16-bit era. Had it been translated into English, it, quote, would have become a fondly remembered classic. I like it. I've never finished it to its completion, taken it to its conclusion, but I will be. Since we've done Final Fantasy Adventure and Secret of Mana, I'm gonna do most of the Mana games. I have Legend. I don't think I have Sword or Children. There's a lot of them, and eventually we might get around to doing most of them. Not the mobile ones. A lot of the games are mobile, like Friends of Mana, Mana Mobile, of course. Rise of Mana is mobile. We have a collection of Mana for the Switch that came out a couple years ago. Don't know much about that. Yeah, it's a fantastic game, part of a fantastic series. It's a bummer we never got it, but I'm glad it got translated.